Okay. I know I said Super Meat Boy was next, but there was one little problem with that claim. December is one of the busiest months of the year for me, so the very thought of making a full review immediately after another full review, and doing so much in this real life that I've got, outside of YouTube, was, well, insanity. So we're gonna do a switcheroo here. The Super Meat Boy video will come out mid to late January, and today's video is what I originally planned for January, now moved to December. Ooh, plus that means I can make the joke I wanted to make before. 5 golden rains. It's the Christmas season, and it's time to kick back and relax. So it's the perfect time to consider going back and playing your backlog of new games that you have on both Steam and your Switch, or just go back to your old favorites anyway. We all have that one game that we can just play over and over and over and over again without ever getting tired of it, right? For me, that game is Sonic Adventure, whether it's the Dreamcast original or the 2004 PC version stuffed to the brim with mods. Want to know how many times I played it? My best time in Emerald Coast is 1 minute and 21 seconds. I have this level and this game overall so well documented in my mind, I know it better than the back of my hand. I don't remember this mole being there, but I do know there's an item box behind this rock in Red Mountain. So with near encyclopedic knowledge of this game comes, well, eventual boredom. Sonic Adventure DX is the first game I install on any new computer I own, but I do the exact same thing every time I play the game. So how can I make this experience better? Then it hit me. What if I try to complete every Sonic stage in the game without jumping? Thus, my Sonic Adventure Try Not to Jump challenge began. My only rule? Get to the end of every level while doing as little jumping or homing attacking as possible. I practically had to pretend that the A button doesn't even exist. This was going to be tricky, but I have to maintain my title as Sonic Adventure Defender somehow, right? So I began. For this session, I decided to only stay with Sonic, because the other characters have their own quirks that would make the challenge even more frustrating than it already will be. I may consider doing follow-up challenges with them just to see what difference it makes, but I have my guesses on some of them already. First up was Emerald Coast. I think I speak for all Sonic Adventure players when I say this is the level that's basically engraved in everyone's minds. All the possible routes, all the secrets, all the enemy placements, everything. So I saw no theoretical issues completing this level without jumping. What was helpful though, was that this level seemed to be designed without jumping in mind. You can get through all the main routes of Act 1 without needing to jump a single time. No, not even for the spring segment near the end. But who wants to do that? Let's at least break the game a little bit while we're here. Once you get to Act 2, in order to escape this level without jumping, you have to take the shortcut at the top of this incline. Because if you don't, you're stuck with this. And that's no good. So take the shortcut to bounce around the platforming segment, then you make it to this ramp. In this area, you have to spin dash to the side to clear the ocean gap. It's possible to make it to this ramp without needing to jump, but if you come up here, you're basically met with a brick wall, the jump panels. We can't do that, so we grab the items over here and then make our way to the springs over there. Then the rest of the level can be cleared while grounded. One of the debates I had with myself was whether jumping for the capsule should count against the jump total. After doing some thinking, I decided it would be unfair to count the capsule as a jump against the total. Making it through the rest of the level without jumping, and then being forced to jump at the end, wouldn't seem fair. So capsule jumping does not count against jump totals. With that, Emerald Coast is clear without a single jump. Moving on now to Windy Valley, it seems to start off simple enough, and then we almost immediately hit a snag. How are you supposed to clear this? Well, with my knowledge of how the spin dash works, I made my way to this small incline and launched myself up. If you position yourself just right, you can even get the electric shield that's floating above. Spin dash before hitting the leaf trail down here to skip the trampoline section, and you're good to go for Act 1. Act 2, again, seemed to start off fine enough. The spring gave me enough airtime to get past the little jump here, then, the jump panels again, and this time it's mandatory. Fine, let's get it over with. But just when you think you're in the clear, you have a trampoline, also mandatory. Try as I might, I couldn't figure out a way to boost Sonic up onto the trampoline without jumping, so I just got it over with. And that takes care of Act 2. Act 3 is an interesting one because while it's actually possible to clear this without jumping, it requires going through a specific route near the middle. Before that though, you can pretty much just spin dash your way through this area, and either the rocket or the lightspeed dash segment will let you move forward without jumping. Then you get here. What you have to do is go along this middle path. Try not to fall off or get hurt, then go on the leaf trail to get to where you can hit the spring. And the rest of the level is straightforward. Windy Valley is complete with only 6 jumps. Not too shabby. Casinopolis is another interesting level because it's technically not a platforming level. You play in the pinball machines the entire time. If you're trying this challenge at home, the slot machine may be a deciding factor in your run since you have to press A to stop it, but it's technically not jumping, so I didn't care. But when I said this is technically not a platforming level, that only applies unless you leave a pinball table with less than 100 rings. Then you're dumped in the sewer. In my original test run, I made the assumption that your only ticket forward was by playing well enough in the pinball tables to not fall in the sewer. But in another run, I discovered that yes, you can make it through the sewer section without jumping. The Lightspeed Dash is a lifesaver here because finding lines of rings will let Sonic travel above pits and ladders without needing to jump. So Casinopolis is no problem. Take a shower, cash in your rings, and you can even hit the capsule without jumping if you angle your spin dash just right. No extra jumps needed. That's pretty cool. Then we have Ice Cap. It looks tricky at first, but when there's a will, there's a way. This rock underneath the rocket platform gives you just enough incline to aim a spin dash upwards, but the automatic camera makes it hard to stick the landing. Luckily, if you're playing DX, you can change it to free camera and fix that problem. Act 2 typically dumps you into a hefty platforming challenge, but we can actually skip most of that. If you activate free camera again and look to Sonic's left here, you can see that a spin dash will let you make it to the platform with the spring, meaning you can skip basically the whole level. However, make it to the top and... oh no, not again. Ugh. The problem is the jump panels trigger a cutscene that makes the door open, so you can't get through this act without triggering the jump panels. That's 4 more jumps down the drain. Luckily, you don't need to jump at all in the snowboarding section, so Ice Cap is clear with only 4 jumps, bringing our total to 10. 4 levels completed with only 10 jumps. That's amazing. What's not amazing is Twinkle Park. This is one of my favorite levels of the game normally, but boy did it give me trouble here. First things first, while you can defeat the enemies riding the bumper cars with a Lightspeed attack, you have to actually jump in order to get in one, so that's 1 jump down already. The bumper car section is easy to manage, so we move on to Act 2 next. Like Casinopolis, some people may find issue with needing to press A to trigger the bowling segments, but again, since it's not technically jumping, I excused it. Afterwards, I got extremely lucky with these water spiders bouncing me onto the platform, so I was able to clear most of Act 2 without needing to jump. It did require some patience and 1 Lightspeed dash to get through. Near the end with some platforming sections, I had to make a few jumps. I tried my best to skip it, but the spin dash, though ridiculously powerful, just wasn't powerful enough to handle that task. So Twinkle Park is cleared with 3 jumps, bringing our total to 13. Next up was Speed Highway. I was a bit worried about this one because of the platforming segments, and my fears were somewhat realized because in order to get on and off these trolleys, you have to jump. And this helicopter. Not even the Lightspeed dash helps here. Thankfully, after the helicopter, you don't need to jump anymore, and you can get through the going down segment without jumping either. I even almost got all of the item boxes along the way. Amazingly, you also can get through the At Dawn segment without jumping too. A tricky spin dash here lets you smoothly get through this upper path, though in hindsight the lower path would have worked well too. The rest of the paths actually don't require jumping, and because of this spring leading to this path up here, you don't have to jump to actually hit the fountain. So you can safely make it to the end with only 3 jumps, bringing my total to 16. Following Speed Highway was Red Mountain, which I was worried about at first, but I was very surprised that I got away without a single jump in Act 1. The Lightspeed Dash and Lightspeed Attack are lifesavers here, but there are some dead-end scenarios such as the set of monkey bars. Basically, getting the skips right here is key to getting by without a ton of jumps. Act 2 was... well... it starts off simple enough. A well-timed spin dash even lets you get this speed-up box, but then we hit the lava. If you're patient, waiting for these platforms to tip will give you room to spin dash or even walk off to the next area. Then a Lightspeed Attack gets you across this next path. Then things get tricky. The collision detection here isn't the best, and I ended up taking a lava bath several times trying to get through here. But the right amount of trickery and patience got me through. If you spin dash fast enough, you can get Sonic over the gaps between the fallen rocks, but it's not a perfect solution. If you get hurt though, try your hardest to quickly spin dash to the next patch of land. This is one level where the Lightspeed Attack can prove to be unwieldy, because it can sometimes target the last enemy in a row first instead of the closest one, meaning you're either back to square one or, again, taking a lava bath. But once all is said and done, the final section can be completed without jumping, bringing my total to 20. If I had been more careful, I probably could have cleared this level without jumping, but I was getting a bit weary from the recording, so I started not caring. Skydeck, Skydeck, Skydeck. An already tricky level made even trickier by the fact that in order to get past some obstacles, you have no choice but to jump. I think out of frustration, I jumped even more than I was supposed to, but yeah, I nearly doubled my jump total on this act alone. Act 2 is a little better, though I still haven't figured out the optimal route for the collapse and platform section here, so a few jumps were sacrificed. Act 3, I knew I couldn't take my normal route because it would add even more jumps to my total, so I brushed off my speedrunning strats and skipped half the act. That's Skydeck completed with a whopping 29 jumps, bringing the total to 49. I more than doubled my total jumps from one stinking level. Come on now. Lost World is one I tried to practice more than others because holy crap did this get tricky in the middle. At this point I was also very tired from the Skydeck crap, so I probably wasn't thinking as clearly as I should have. However, some of the skips here require exploiting the physics engine. In the very beginning, you have to cut across from the pool here, otherwise the game won't let you up on this lip. Then in this cylinder room, which now that I think about it, probably predicted Sonic Lost World 15 years before its release, you have to keep Sonic running on the ceiling to make the game launch him up, so you can cross this lip. Spin dash to get across the spike gap, then yeah, you're pretty much playing this section normally. You can't glitch your way onto the snake, and the lightspeed attack only works so well. Actually, in my run this time it didn't work. This room alone brought me to 19 jumps. The lightspeed attack didn't work well in the mirror room either, though I think there were a few instances where I could have lightspeed dashed. But after Skydeck, I really didn't want to take many risks. The rest of this level is somewhat straightforward, but I needed to execute a skip in order to reduce my number of jumps. And that's Lost World done with 35 jumps, bringing my total to 84. Ouch. Then we have Final Egg, the last level of the game, and while not as frustrating as Skydeck, would prove to be a major challenge for my, well, challenge. Firstly, with these lasers, you can either weave your way around them, or take damage and just walk through. Everything seems fine until you get to this room, where you have to use the lightspeed attack, and hope it works. It took me a few tries to get to a point where I hit the spring and could move forward, but then we hit the treadmills. Fine. The rest of the act can be played without jumping, but try not to let yourself glitch through the wall like this instance. Then we have Act 2. Spoiler alert! Boingy, 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 boingy. I won't bore you with the details since we're nearing the end of the video, but I counted a total of 7 mandatory jumps in this section alone, with several of those instances being me giving up after attempting lightspeed attack skips that just did not work. Losing all your lives and having to redo the entire level just for another chance at the part you got stuck at is not fun. I did it in Lost World, I did it in Skydeck, but I think I did most of it here. I almost hate Final Egg now. Oh, and there's an SADX exclusive camera glitch that plagued me here, and it got really disorienting after a while, so that was fun. Setting it to free camera does fix it, but sheesh, you'd think they would have fixed that. Thankfully, I know the end of Act 2 so well that jumping wasn't necessary, and Act 3 was actually a breath of fresh air, because not only could I score a bunch of lives in the beginning to make up for the crap I went through in Act 2, but there were only 3 instances where I needed to jump. Only 3. Here, here, and here. Everything else was actually fairly simple to get by without jumping. Simple spin dashing was enough to take care of some of the gaps, and while I didn't take as many risks here, so I wouldn't have to play the level over again, I feel like I did pretty well. So as I came to the final room, I smiled. I fought the odds. I completed the game with as few jumps as I possibly could at my current skill level, and I made it to the end of Final Egg. Defeat these badniks, lightspeed dash over this gap, and that's it. Oops. Now that's it. After 14 jumps in Final Egg, the Sonic Adventure Try Not to Jump challenge was complete. So from a first run of this challenge, I successfully cleared Sonic's levels in Sonic Adventure 1 while only having to jump 98 times. Most of this count does come from the later levels, and most of that from Lost World, go figure. But I think it's impressive since this is supposed to be a platformer. I'm thinking that if I were to do another Try Not to Jump challenge, I want to try Sonic Adventure 2 next. I think it'd be interesting to see how that game fares, especially since the spin dash was nerfed in that game. Now, where was I in my song? Let's see, on the 15th day of Christmas? No, that's not right. Alright, I gotta start over. On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a partridge in a pear tree. Wait, what even is a partridge? Like, seriously, what is a partridge? Hang on, let me look this up. That's a partridge? Seriously? But what's it doing sitting on a pear tree? It doesn't even eat pears. It eats wheat, barley, oats, sunflowers, all that stuff. Why not just sit in a normal tree? Like sit on a pine tree for Pete's sake. It's Christmas. Or I don't know. Maybe a bush. Maybe it'll eat the seeds from grapes or something like that. But why a pear tree? There are lots of other birds that would eat pears, not a partridge. I hate this song now.